All right, this is week 7 of the NFL season, or at least it's going to be week 7 after the Monday night game. But really, for the 49ers, week 7 started Friday morning when they turned the page on the Seattle Seahawks and then just started looking ahead to this week 7 matchup at Levi Stadium against the Kansas City Chiefs. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and kind of bring you up to date on what's going on around the NFL, the NFC West, and the 49ers injury situation. This video is brought to you by Canyon Club Brewery, a restaurant beer garden providing fresh beer, delicious bites, and a family-friendly atmosphere in Moraga, right down the street from where I live. It's one of my go-to places, and it's going to be really awesome when they open up another location at the Danville Livery right off of 680. Okay, so the 49ers coming off their 36-24 victory over the Seattle Seahawks. And almost immediately after the game, everybody started to look ahead to, I guess you could call it a Super Bowl rematch, seeing that that's what it is, 49ers and the Chiefs at Levi Stadium. Trent Williams was asked about just looking ahead to that game and the significance of it. And I think he put it in pretty good perspective because how did he refer to it? He said, it's a game. It's just another game. It's not like we can get payback for losing in the Super Bowl. That ship has sailed. So it is just another game. We got to come out and play complementary football. Obviously, we know what type of team that is. One of the best teams in the league, all-star quarterback, great coach. It's going to be a tough game regardless. So he said on Thursday night, we're going to take 3 days off and regroup and try to put a complete game together. And that's something as the 49ers are 3-3 heading into week 7. They have yet to put a complete game together. I'm sure the Kansas City Chiefs are saying the same thing, even though the Chiefs are 5-0. Each of Kansas City's wins this season have been by 7 or fewer points. Games against Baltimore, Cincinnati, at Atlanta, at the Los Angeles Chargers, and against New Orleans. So this will definitely be a game that will be the marquee game of the regular season when you consider that it is the two teams that made it to the Super Bowl a year ago. So all eyeballs will be on this one. Tom Brady will be back in the booth for Fox. The one thing with Kansas City is, they certainly have not hit their stride yet. Rashee Rice, their leading receiver, he's out for the season with the knee injury. Travis Kelce, his numbers are down a little bit, 24 catches for 228 yards and no touchdowns in 5 games. Patrick Mahomes is having a below average season for him up to this point. He is completing nearly 70% of his passes, and he is throwing for 250 yards a game, but he has 6 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions and a passer rating of 88.9. And as far as the 49ers, Brock Purdy will be challenged once again. He responded to that challenge against Mike Macdonald and the Seattle Seahawks defense. That's the same Mike Macdonald who was running the Ravens defense a year ago and intercepted Brock Purdy 4 times in that game on Christmas night of 2023. And this time it's Steve Spagnuolo, considered the best defensive coordinator in the game. Somebody that Kyle Shanahan reportedly went after to see if he could be available, could be had in the offseason. Steve Spagnuolo staying with the Chiefs. But Kansas City came up with a really good game plan against the 49ers in the Super Bowl, a lot of man coverage. They really took away a lot of the things the 49ers like to do. And so I think we have seen teams use that template against the 49ers this season with pretty good success, although Purdy still is having a good season, completing 65% of his passes, averaging 271.5 yards passing per game. He has 9 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and his passer rating is 100.5. So that will be really the game within the game. Obviously it'll be Andy Reid and his offense against Nick Sorensen and the 49ers defense. But all eyeballs will be on what Steve Spagnuolo does against the 49ers and how Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers playmakers, respond. One of the aspects of the 49ers offense that certainly has slipped under the radar, I think, this season is just the play of the offensive line. 49ers gave up 6 sacks in that game against Minnesota in week 2. And granted, the offensive line was not responsible for many of those, maybe two of them, when you just look at how those sacks transpired and who was responsible. But they did give up 6 sacks in that one game against Minnesota. In the other 5 games, Purdy has been sacked a total of 6 times in those games. So Brock Purdy has done a good job of using his legs at sometimes. Other times he hasn't done a good job of that, as far as maybe not throwing the ball away at times when he could, or maybe not throwing it in rhythm to the receivers. But he is using his legs as more part of his game this season. It really shows up on the stat sheet. Through these 6 games, he has carried 26 times for 127 yards, and he has 13 first downs rushing already this season. All of last year, 144 yards rushing and 15 first downs on the ground. So Brock Purdy, that was the one thing. I don't know if you recall, we did something for the 49ers Talk podcast, and Steve Young said that that's where he sees Purdy taking his game to another level. We saw it in the NFC Championship game, where the 49ers probably don't come back and beat the Lions if Purdy doesn't use his legs to pick up some key first downs. This year, he's using that more as part of his game. And even heading into the offseason, he talked about using his legs more, his mobility, and trying to get some of those hidden yards, or maybe not hidden yards, but maybe gift yards, where teams are playing man coverage down the field. And now there's an opening for him to go get an 8-yard gain rushing on a 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6 play. Okay, so this is the Sunday of week 6. And as I'm taping this, the Cardinals are down pretty big against the Green Bay Packers. So we're going to go ahead, even though I have watched the 49ers this season and they haven't been able to hold on those leads against the Rams and the Cardinals. But we're going to go ahead and chalk this in the loss column to the Cardinals, which means entering week 7, it's a two-way tie atop the NFC West. And, technically the 49ers are ahead because they have the tiebreaker at this point over Seattle. But of course, the teams will play later in the season. So the 49ers 3-3 heading into this matchup against Kansas City. The Seahawks are also 3-3. They'll go to Atlanta to play the Falcons in week 7. So what's kind of interesting is you talk about the opportunities that have gotten away from the 49ers already this season. The Cardinals are 2-4. The Rams are 1-4. So between the Cardinals and the Rams, they only have 3 victories on the season. 2 of them have come against the 49ers, and both times those teams came back from large deficits. Okay, so as we spin this thing forward, just an update on Ricky Pearsall. He's expected to be on the practice field Monday. 49ers plan to open the window for him as he's on NFI right now. So he basically can practice for 21 days. And at the end of that window, the 49ers would have to make a decision whether to keep him on NFI for the rest of the season, activate him. They have to make a decision that will last through the season. A lot of times they don't allow it to reach that 21 days unless there's an issue or a setback or something of that nature. So expect Ricky Pearsall to be back on the field or make his debut, I guess I should say, with the 49ers pretty soon. Might not be against Kansas City, but they have the game coming up against the Cowboys after that, and then the bye week. So Ricky Pearsall pretty much expected to be on the field for the second half of the season. Christian McCaffrey will not be returning to practice this week, so they're going to hold off on him. And then as far as the guys who are day-to-day, running back Jordan Mason with the shoulder sprain, Malik Mustafa, low ankle sprain, kicker Matthew Wright with a shoulder issue, a subluxation. The thing popped out and then popped back in. And then Charvarius Ward is day-to-day with the knee. He believes he could have played on Sunday if it had been a Sunday game instead of the Thursday game. And then one more update. Dre Greenlaw has not been cleared for football activity, but you wouldn't have known it had you seen him on the sideline week 5 against the Cardinals. Dre Greenlaw got himself into the action, and it was costly to him, and it was costly to the 49ers because there is an incident late in the third quarter of that game where Trey McBride, the Cardinals tight end, was blocking Charvarius Ward and continued to block him out of bounds into the 49ers bench area. So No penalty flags were thrown on this play, by the way, but McBride was fined $9,545 for unsportsmanlike conduct, unnecessary roughness, and then Charvarius Ward, toward the end of their little scuffle, grabbed McBride by the face mask and kind of yanked that thing down. He was fined $11,255 for that. And then Greenlaw, who was in street clothes because he's inactive on the physically unable to perform list as he continues to rehab from the torn Achilles, he gets into the mix and shoves Trey McBride. And so the NFL fined Dre Greenlaw $14,069 for unsportsmanlike conduct. And then the NFL fined the 49ers an additional $100,000 for violating the rule that prohibits inactive players from making unnecessary contact with an opponent. And as an NFL spokesman told me, teams are held accountable for maintaining order and appropriate conduct on their sidelines. So therefore, Dre Greenlaw's actions cost the 49ers $100,000. But it's also perhaps a sign that Dre Greenlaw itching to mix it up, trying to get back out there on the field. And we don't know the exact timeline on when the 49ers expect to open his practice window, but I do think it'll be shortly after, sometime after the bye week. So that's the update as the 49ers start to focus in on the Kansas City Chiefs. Is it a big game? Absolutely. But it's a big game more for the win-loss column as opposed to anything of greater significance. Yes, I think it is emotional for the 49ers that they do want to be able to prove that they can beat the team that is the best in the NFL. Does it preclude them from, if in a Super Bowl rematch, of winning a rematch? No, it doesn't. But I do think just from an emotional standpoint, it is important for the 49ers. I don't know that they're a team lacking in confidence, but certainly a victory over the Chiefs could be seen as a significant springboard into the second half of the season. All right. Be sure to check back here. Thanks for all the subscriptions, all the likes, all the comments. And that's it for now.